Alright, time for the biggest baddies of them all, the explosive weapons. Starting with the grenade launcher, which happens to be exclusive to Jill's game. Chris cannot get the grenade launcher. So, here it is, and it also, as with Resident Evil tradition seemingly, it has multiple types of rounds. The standard grenade shells, the incendiary shells, and the acid shells. So, by default, it usually starts with the regular grenade shells. I just haven't loaded it into the gun yet. Interestingly enough, the ammo can stack within the weapon, making it seemingly limitless, even though there's a limited amount of ammo placed in the game. Now, unfortunately, there used to be a nice little glitch that would allow you to get virtually infinite ammo with this weapon specifically. It was like a glitch with the item box. I believe it only worked in the original GameCube version. They deleted it for the Wii and the current gen console version, so I can't show you guys that. But anyway, here's the grenade launcher. Let's check it out, examine it. Alright, rotate to the other side, full rotation, and let's go X-axis, or would that be Y-axis? I don't know. And in-game description. Grenades are already loaded. Oh, that's right, the retarded description again, which you would have thought they would have fixed for the remastered, but no. Alright. Well, I would have to empty out all the rounds to see a proper description, so I'm going to cut to that right now. Alright, now it's unloaded. See if the description is different. A gun that fires grenade rounds, acid rounds, or incendiary rounds. Alright. Not much better of a description, really. But, I mean, I guess how can you describe an explosive weapon other than mass firepower? So the location of the grenade launcher happens to be near the corpse of Forrest, out in the terrace. In normal circumstance, you would just grab the weapon right next to his corpse, and if you then, of course, go towards the herbs at the back of the terrace, he will attack you then. However, you could also trigger a cutscene involving Barry with this weapon if you do certain events within the game beforehand. Specifically, if you don't see Barry at all between him leaving the hallway and here, this cutscene will trigger. So it means you have to go straight for the dog whistle to start the process of getting the armor key, and then go straight to this room if you want to trigger that cutscene. It's the safest bet to get it. So yeah, and of course the ammo is scattered everywhere. Alright, so now let's go ahead and test the grenade launcher out. So 3 different types of rounds gives it quite a variety, and all of the types of rounds have their uses, like against certain enemies. So it's kind of difficult to choose a singular enemy to test this on, but I think one of the best ones to do so on a hunter. If it can withstand more than one shot from each round, then that will be a proper test, if you ask me. So yeah, let's go ahead and try it on a hunter. Alright, so it took 2 explosive rounds to defeat a hunter. Now let's try incendiary rounds. Alright, so it took 3 incendiary shells to take down a hunter. So for that specific enemy at least, incendiary shells are slightly weaker than explosive shells. Now let's test out the final round, acid shells. Alright, so interestingly enough, acid shells only took 1 round to defeat the hunter. So, the order of least powerful to most powerful appears to be incendiary, then explosive, and then finally acid shells. I'm actually really glad all 3 rounds took a different amount of shots. That was a great test. So, I don't know if this applies for all enemies. Some enemies might be able to tolerate different rounds better than others. I just know that it's flame rounds that have a specific use. Flame rounds are really good against the web spinners and the plant 42, as I understand, because those are plants and spiders, and they're all susceptible to fire like no other enemy. So that's where incendiary rounds are best used for those enemies. The other 2 rounds, all I could really say is they're probably good for all enemies. I don't know if there's a single enemy that acid or explosive is not recommended against. Someone else could say in the comments if there really is. But anyway, that's going to conclude the grenade launcher. Alright, now for a weapon that's in its own class, the Flamethrower. Now, this weapon is exclusive to Chris, just like the grenade launcher is exclusive to Jill. An anti-personnel weapon that sprays a stream of flames. Alrighty. So here's the location of the Flamethrower. Once you make it down into the underground, below the courtyard, you'll eventually come across it on these hooks. Now, once you take it, it locks the door behind you, and you have to carry it to another lock that's after the Black Tiger boss battle, which will be the enemy I tested on, by the way, since it's pretty much the only enemy I can test it on. You cannot carry this weapon out of the underground because there's only 2 places you can go that requires it, and without getting through to those 2 places, you will never proceed in the game. Unless you perform some sort of super hack, which I don't know exists, but you essentially cannot carry this weapon out of the underground tunnels. So, let's go ahead and test it out real quick. Alright, just throwing flame around as it's named. Well, now I gotta reload the game to get the ammo back, but that's okay. So, I'm gonna go ahead and test it right away on the only enemy you can test it on. The Black Tiger boss, also known as a giant spider. Alright, so I started off with 100% and I ended with 47% flamethrower fuel left. So that test alone took 53% of the total amount of fuel in the flamethrower. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to vary from game to game and depending on how close up and if you're actually hitting it or not. But yeah, it takes around half of the flamethrower to defeat that thing, and the other half you might want to use on disposing of this web that blocks the door over here, which happens to be all gone now because if you're firing this thing right next to this door, you could defeat the spider as well as get rid of all the webs. So yeah, it's possible not to have to use all of the fuel in the flamethrower easily. Alrighty, so that's, you know what, let's go ahead and, I wish this thing would drop because, there, I just put it on a regular spider, on a web spinner, and I'm all out. So, there you go. That would be the only reason to use up the rest of it if you wanted to. Because yeah, after this battle, there's really no real use for the flamethrower anymore. So yeah, let's get on. Oh shoot, there's another spider. But anyway, that's gonna conclude the flamethrower. Now for the next explosive weapon, the rocket launcher. A very destructive weapon that fires rockets with a large blast radius. Alright, so here's the location of this rocket launcher. It's at the very end of the game, and you have to either wait until 30 seconds left on the timer, or you gotta damage the tyrant a little bit to get it earlier. So yeah, I would recommend bringing a Magnum to shorten the time it takes to achieve this weapon. But once you have it, just takes 1, sometimes 2 rockets to defeat the tyrant, because sometimes he'll whisk the first one away. I don't know why they give you a total of 4. How are you going to miss with this thing? Now, I'm going to look like a fool testing it out, because I got to avoid the tyrant first to see the actual fire animation, because it just cuts straight to the cutscene if I aim at the tyrant. So, let's go ahead and test it out. Alright, mass destruction, obviously. Now let's test it on the only enemy it can be tested on, the Tyrant. As a matter of fact, it killed Rebecca just now, too, so sweet revenge coming up here. Incinerated! Alright, so that's basically it. There's nothing else to test it on, so I'm going to conclude the rocket launcher. Alright, time for the final weapon of this weapon review, the Infinite Rocket Launcher. And as you can see, it looks greatly different than the rocket launcher I just tested. Looks like a futuristic weapon, more or less, I don't know. Launches fire and forget rockets continuously. Extremely destructive. No shit, and the fact that it's infinite, that's why they say continuously. Alright, so to unlock this, since it's obviously an unlockable, you have to beat the game under 3 hours, in probably a normal mode, just like the handgun. So for some people, it probably is quite a challenge to beat the game that fast. I would recommend you practice the game quite a bit before you attempt to do this. But for an experienced Resident Evil veteran like myself, it's almost second nature to beat the game under 3 hours for me. Even if I am not really trying. Not trying to brag about it. I'm just sharing my knowledge of the game. Anyway, that's how you unlock the rocket launcher. Let's go ahead and test out the massive firepower this thing packs. So, a main advantage this rocket launcher has over the other one, other than infinite ammo, is the fact that it takes way less time to even aim it. You don't have to pick the whole thing up. It's just a side thing, even though it has like a shoulder stock, which, you know, Chris still doesn't aim it right. I don't know if you could fire something like that, though, against your shoulder. Other than that, though, the rockets pretty much act just the same. Alright, so the rocket launcher really is a weapon that is one shot on virtually all enemies in this game. However, there are occasions when Crimson Heads somehow can take more than one shot. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but I have seen it happen. It's crazy. But practically all enemies usually take only one shot with this weapon, so the only way to properly test it is to just do a montage of many different enemies getting obliterated by this thing, which I usually do for rocket launchers anyway in the game. So enjoy this little rocket-fueled montage of enemies just getting destroyed. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to conclude my weapon review of Resident Evil Remastered. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's always nice to go back to weapon reviews. They're a nice little pastime of mine. One of the 3 types of videos I do all around my channel. The other 2 would be melee moves and full plays. Because I've done all the weapons in the entire game series, yeah, there's no reason to do any more weapon reviews except for purposes like this, remastering them. Make them look better, the overall quality better, and whatnot. Yeah, so that's going to conclude the review. So if you're a regular viewer who doesn't care about anything else I have to say, you might as well end the video now. There's nothing else about the review I have to say. The rest of what I have to say will be for my subscribers who want to know what will be coming up next. Alright, so obviously, because I went back and remastered the weapon review of Remake, it would only be fitting to do the same for Resident Evil 0. So that will happen in the future, but I'm going to do what I did for this game. I'm going to wait until the full play of Resident Evil 0 is complete, which is my next full play, by the way, but once again, it is not going to be the next video you guys see from me. The next piece of content you're going to see from me will be live streaming of Resident Evil 7 DLC, specifically the Daughters DLC, which has been out since like the game's release, pretty much. Then the newer DLC, including Not a Hero and End of Zoe. I am going to live stream my blind first playthroughs of all of that DLC. I've never played Daughters, just so you guys know, so it will be legitimate and genuine. That will be the next piece of content you guys see from me. We'll be live streaming of that stuff, so it should be pretty awesome. And once again, the next full play is Resident Evil 0. And of course, you got the weekly Q&As to tune into if you want to see me, like in real life, and ask me whatever you want, as long as it's appropriate. And yeah, I think that's gonna fully conclude this weapon review now. So, as always, people, this is Shankster94, aka TheGamerShankster. Rate, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, and to check out my Twitter page at Shankster_94, and to support me on Patreon. As of this moment, I only have one patron, so shout out to him, Wyatt Shottrand. Alrighty, you guys are awesome. I hope you enjoyed the weapon review. Oh, the explosive headshot action. Seems to be the highlight of my weapon reviews, doesn't it? Peace out!